Recently, Roblox announced a horrendous update that was rightfully met with severe backlash. The backlash was so severe, users started chanting curses against David Baszucki. I do not condone the use of black magic, but with an update that goes against what Robloxians want, I do not blame their crash out. This update is the removal of classic faces and static heads in favor of replacing them with dynamic heads, and in this video I will be discussing why this update is objectively bad. Number 1. It goes against the will of the player base. Now the first and most important reason is that this update violates the will of the Roblox player base. Almost every Robloxian opposed this update and would kill to keep their classic faces. The fact that Roblox is choosing to remove classic faces proves that they aren't just out of touch with their community, but are also working against them. Like I said, this announcement was met with severe backlash to the point there are users hexing David Baszucki on Twitter. Some users, including Schlep, pointed out that their timeline is filled with David Baszucki creepypastas. Not only that, users on the dev forum are complaining about this update as well. Number 2. It threatens the creative vision of Robloxians. There's absolutely nothing creative about destroying an entire category of catalogs at all, especially when there are players that actively use those catalogs within that category. Not a single Robloxian even asked for this, and many of them have been rejecting dynamic heads from the start. For you to just take a catalog they're using in their avatar away and force them to use one they never wanted to use in the first place is the opposite of creativity. The fact that they're also calling for the removal of static heads is also the opposite of creative, especially when tons of users are using them. Why do they have to be dynamic? Why do they have to be faces that move? The players don't care if the heads don't have facial features enabled. Why should you? Not only that, what if Roblox players don't want to use dynamic faces? Why should they be forced to use them? Their avatars don't need them. Their avatars don't need moving faces, yet you're forcing them to use them. Powering imagination's my ass. Not only that, dynamic faces are not as good as the classic faces. Which brings me to my next point. Because I haven't talked about the actual blog in the script, I'm just gonna quickly record myself reviewing it as I'm editing. We are building a platform where every user can express themselves authentically. Bullshit. Bull fucking shit. If you really were, then you wouldn't really be making an update where you remove an entire category of catalogs. We just announced classic heads and faces are static and do not support the defined cage regions or animation requirements of this policy, nor do they allow you for users to express themselves. And that's the problem. Why? Legitimately. Why? Why is that a problem? Like, they do allow users to express themselves, just not in the way you want them to. They were perfectly fine with using classic faces, right? So let them keep it. While we want to empower creators to keep the same look and feel if they'd like, animation is vital in user self-expression. No, they aren't. No, they fucking aren't. You're trying to paint something as a problem, right? And trying to fix it. You're trying to fix a problem that isn't there. You're trying to fix something that isn't there. Like, you're trying to solve a problem which isn't there. You're trying to fix something that isn't broken. Like, what the fuck? Therefore, we are completing the... Like, I'm sorry, bro, but whatever your new policy is, your policy goes against the idea of users expressing themselves authentically. Like, I'm sorry, that's literally it. That's literally what it is. Like, they're trying to paint this update as if they want to make users express themselves authentically. But guess what? removing an entire category of catalogs do not do that. They do the opposite. Users were fine with using classic faces and static heads to express themselves, to use in their avatars, right? It wasn't a problem before, and it literally never will be a problem. The only one having a problem with it is you, and only you. Like, seriously, how out of touch are they to, like, push this bullshit? Like, what do you mean a single system? Like, fuck that. Number 3. Replacing what is not broken with an inferior product. You saw the comparison between the original faces and the dynamic faces, and my god, they are not good at all. They are absolutely inferior to the classic faces, and Roblox wants to replace the classic faces with these ass-looking heads. There's a saying that goes, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, and that applies to Roblox faces. The classic faces themselves are fine as they are, and the Robloxians are happy to have them in their inventory. However, Roblox fucks them up by replacing them with shitty dynamic heads that do not look as good as their classic counterparts, especially when a good portion of them are literally disproportionated and don't really fit the personality of the faces. They fail in quality and accuracy. Like the Galaxy Gaze face, for example. Like, what the actual fuck happened with the smile? Don't get me wrong though. Some dynamic heads do a fine job at recreating the faces, but unfortunately, it is not the case for majority of the faces. Not only that, many of those faces are mood-oriented, and dynamic heads basically ignore the mood-oriented aspect of some of these faces. Like, I don't think we should animate the awesome face and crybaby, especially when the former is a fucking monstrosity. The worst part is that even the limiteds that cost hundreds of thousands of Robux, as well as the faces obtained from toy codes, are being replaced. This is absolutely foul because you are taking items the players have bought and replacing them with something far inferior, and because of that, the limiteds and the toy codes have just been shitified. Not only that, the value of some of these limited faces are dropping due to the faces being altered to look like shit. This brings me to my next point. Number 4. It ruins the value of limited items. Roblox says they're going to keep the rarity of the limited items, but however, the value of them will drop due to the actual items being replaced with a far more inferior item. The only faces that aren't that buttered with the dynamic faces are the faces without mouths, such as snowflake eyes, as well as the Arthur faces, which all seem to be one-to-ones. However, a lot of faces literally downgraded as a result of the replacement of dynamic faces, which made them plummet in value. For example, faces like Yum, Playful Vampire, and Super Happy Face have been downed in value along with other faces. The reason why their values are dropping is due to people panic selling as a result of their dynamic counterparts being huge downgrades from the actual faces themselves, which will mean that the sellers get less money as well as Roblox themselves. Number 5. It is a form of history erasure and cultural desecration. These faces have been around since the start of 2009, and for them to just remove them like it's nothing is straight up history erasure and cultural desecration, due to them being replaced with shitty heads instead. These are what majority of Robloxians have been using the entire time, and these are what the limited faces were, and they all make up Roblox culture. For Roblox to just suddenly replace them with animated heads is a form of cultural desecration, as this update is stripping Roblox from its culture. Roblox has been known to dismiss their classic history, which is shown when Roblox constantly shove Arthur in our faces and act as if they represent the community. That and the fact that they deleted their older blog posts a few years back. The Classic was a great event in my opinion because it meant that Roblox was forced to acknowledge their past. However, that does not mean they aren't trying to erase the past now. Giving users the option to not animate their faces does not help at all when they are still losing their 2D faces. Especially like I said, they aren't one-to-one to the original faces. If you're giving them an option to not animate their faces, then what the fuck was the point of removing the classic faces in the first place? Not only that, a Roblox staff member also promised to preserve the classic faces back in October 2025. Like, what the fuck is up with that?
Why the fuck you lying? Why you always lying? Oh my god, stop fucking lying.
Number 6. Lack of compatibility with certain avatars. These faces are not compatible with R6, nor some of the classic heads at all, which is why it will be very damaging for R6 avatars. However, Roblox also appears to be planning to remove R6 and make an R15 system that adapts to R6 movement. This is also indicated with the fact that Roblox wants to make a single avatar system. I think removing R6 entirely and replacing it with the R15 body system is bad for 2 reasons, which I'll probably get into in another video when Roblox does get to removing it. R6 and classic heads deprecation aside, these faces may also fail to work with certain avatar items that weren't made to adapt with dynamic heads. If that issue goes unaddressed, then it will really fuck up the avatars which users have right now, especially when Roblox tend to wear static heads, which Roblox is also planning to remove in a month's time. Number 7. It burdens UGC creators. UGC creators who have uploaded tons of static heads are forced to comply with this update, otherwise they will have their creations removed from the catalog and players' inventories by June. This puts a lot of stress on UGC creators who will have to waste time converting their static heads into animations. By removing the faces which UGC creators made just cause they don't animate, means that Roblox is shutting down the source of revenue for not only them but also for Roblox themselves. The way Roblox goes on to solve this problem is for UGC creators to feed their heads to an AI system that will animate their existing static heads. However, doing that they could risk really messing up their items, so it ain't like it's just as simple as that. Besides, why even force UGC creators to animate their faces? Just let the heads that aren't animated stay. There's absolutely no harm in having them exist. You're trying to fix something that was never a problem in the first place, and are burdening the UGC creators as a result. Especially when you're just gonna give Robloxians the option to toggle animated faces or not. Number 8. It could potentially threaten games and animation videos. By forcing this update, Roblox makes it difficult to handle characters in animation videos. What I mean is animators that utilize characters that use 2D faces in their videos. Remember all those music videos back in 2016 and 2017? That's what I mean. The characters all use 2D faces and decals which won't be compatible at all with dynamic heads. It really wouldn't matter if the dynamic heads were one-to-one with the actual classic faces, because in the end, they aren't really customizable in animations at all. Classic heads are far more customizable than dynamic heads, because you could replace the face they have with literally anything. This makes character creation for games more convenient and crazier, because imagine all the shit you can put in a classic head. Basically, what I am saying is that classic heads are far more customizable with classic faces and decals than dynamic heads. Take a look at animation videos from Cabra and Justice TV, for example. Their characters all used classic heads and decals for faces in a way that would be impossible to do with dynamic heads with animated faces. As for characters in a game, fuck it, I'll show you a clip from Groovy Dominoes 52 to show you what I mean.
So here's an example scenario where the 3D heads and faces could break a game, right? So I have here a morph. Let's morph into Evil Tango per se. So here you go, it works. But if you have 3D faces, which by the way forces you to use R15, this is what happens if you morph into Evil Tango. Like what just what is this? Like the evil face decal is just broken. It doesn't even. But yeah, this is a little bit of a niche case, but I just still feel like it's worth mentioning.
Now this isn't just the only example of heads with classic faces being superior to dynamic heads. There's also Cabra's roleplay universe that utilizes face morph too, making roleplay much more customizable. This is something that can never be done with dynamic heads. Number 9. It does not benefit Roblox at all. This may seem like the most unprofessional point ever, but like what point does this update serve other than stripping Roblox from its identity and culture? What point does it have? Literally, they say it's so users could express themselves more authentically, but this is bullshit. Removing something which Robloxians use to express themselves does the opposite of making users express themselves more authentically. People identified with these faces and you're just gonna take that away from them like that. Nobody asked for this update. Nobody supports this update. Everybody opposes this update. All it does is cause so many problems for not only the community, but games as well. What Roblox is doing is trying to turn Roblox into something that isn't Roblox. It's simple. If Roblox wants animated faces, especially of classic faces, what they should do is make sprite sheets out of classic faces. We do not need 3D dynamic heads, especially if there are going to be inferior versions of these heads. What I mean is make it so that the classic faces have frames that switch, and of course, give the users the option to turn it off. In addition, Roblox should just simply scrap this update entirely. This update does not work at all. It burdens creators and goes against the artistic vision of Roblox players. Instead, they should let the static heads that exist in the platform to keep existing. There is zero good reason to remove them, especially when there are users actually putting them into use. In conclusion, this update proves that not only is Roblox completely out of touch with their player base, but is also working against them. Not only that, they're outright delusional and all they do is live in some imaginary world where the community dick sucks Roblox 24/7. This is proven from some transcripts where they basically go on about how they want to strip Roblox out of its identity through modernity. This is this transcript, by the way. I will try to keep it as brief as possible and just pick out the most important information. The main takeaway here is the very text saying, and the future is everyone has a hyper-realistic avatar. It looks just like them. Which, in other words, means stripping Roblox out of its identity. The transcript also has David Baszucki saying that ultimately all clothing in Roblox will be 3D clothing, and that he ultimately expects 100% of users using layered clothing. Like, yikes! Aside from the fact that removing 2D clothing would be a catastrophic change, to say that Roblox is out of touch with their community is an understatement. They have a completely warped perception of their community, like damn. Like honestly, right? There was already a fuck ton of backlash with the ID verification update, and the moment I finished my video on that update, they then announced another shit update, like be for real now. Like that update is literally the worst update in Roblox history, but at least it had some sort of reasoning behind it. The classic face removal has none other than trying to modernize a platform and make Roblox into something that isn't Roblox. Like, hello? What do you think the blocks in Roblox means? Like, not only that, you're replacing classic faces with dynamic heads that look horseshit. I believe that either the dynamic heads were made by humans that deliberately turned them into shit so people resort to using faces made for Arthur avatars, which is evidenced by how some of the Arthur faces are actually one-to-one, or that they just used AI to recreate the classic faces, which is evidenced by how butchered the dynamic heads are, having mistakes a human could easily avoid. Plus, a guy who works with Roblox and uses AI replying to waffle trades about a face that got fucked up. Basically, I've been typing up this script while trying to keep update as much as possible with this news. What's been revealed now is that Roblox is not going to deprecate R6, which is a good thing because they promised that we would keep our R6 avatars forever. However, it could also be them lying and just hiding that they'd be replacing the R6 rig with R15 but with R6 physics. David said classic faces aren't going away even though they clearly are and are getting replaced with dynamic heads. There's also the case that they could simply be deprecating R6 within a few years and that the 2022 transcript forced them to go into damage control, so they are just waiting until players forget about that clarity and then go on to remove it anyways. Not only that, they also said they want a unified avatar system. The next thing they said is that they're not going to deprecate 2D clothing, which is another good thing because almost every single avatar on Roblox uses them, so it ain't like that's possible. They just can't really replace 2D clothing with 3D clothing that mimics it. Like, that ain't possible. Especially when there are games that don't support 3D clothing. I don't really see them trying to remove 2D clothing anyways, cause I feel like that's basically impossible when all the blocky avatars were made for 2D clothing in mind. Like my Voltron shirt cannot be turned into 3D on my 3.0 avatar, that's what I can say. Unfortunately, they have not backed down with the removal of classic faces. Instead, they said that the shitty dynamic heads aren't the final design and they're still working on one-to-one parity, which is just upsetting because surely if they're going to keep R6 and 2D clothes, they'd also keep the 2D faces, right? Them still working on a one-to-one parity and the heads we got now not being the final design is better than nothing, but the fact that they're still adamant about removing classic faces means that them not removing R6 and 2D clothes is just damage control. The least extreme thing I suggest now is to boycott Roblox. In other words, go on Roblox less if at all. Maybe substitute it with other games. If you have the money to do so, maybe stop playing Minecraft or some games on Steam. Otherwise, just resort to playing any free games on Steam or itch.io. If at all, then maybe play some browser-based games. There's also a game like Roblox called Politoria, which has been talked about by the likes of Schlep. Now, I'm unsure if it will just be Roblox's Blue Ski or not, where everybody just migrates there for a week only to come back to Roblox when this backlash dies down, but I think it's worth checking out. What I suggest is to not treat Politoria as a replacement but a substitute where it's a game for you to check out. I've made an account there, but I haven't played a single game due to my macOS being incompatible with the app. Unfortunately, due to a massive influx of users which Politoria couldn't have anticipated, the servers are under fire, and as a result, the website and the service is quite slow. What I suggest is to wait until Politoria upgrades their servers to handle those big player base and check it out. I don't really recommend permanently residing in Politoria, however, because the chances of it actually taking off is very unlikely, so I suggest playing it along with Roblox. Since 2019, it's just been nothing but a really niche game platform. In fact, there is a Reddit post that explains why Politoria can't be the new Roblox. Now what am I gonna do? I can't really abandon Roblox given all the time I've spent on it. Like, this month is gonna be the 10th anniversary since I've joined Roblox, so it ain't like I'm gonna outright quit Roblox on my 10th anniversary. What I do know is that I'm gonna spend far less time on it than before. A lot of the friends I've made on Roblox I have added on Discord and other platforms, so it ain't like I'd have to worry about losing contact with them very much. I will certainly be spending less time on Roblox than before. It's not really the same as it is now due to the ID chat update and the removal of classic faces. If I were to go on Roblox, it'd be to occasionally play some games I can play by myself, talk to some friends I have in there, and maybe occasionally play with a friend while talking outside of Roblox. When it comes to playing other games, well, Roblox is just the most accessible to me. Minecraft is really expensive to buy, and given that I bought a cheap key on Windows, I can only play it on my laptop. Steam is broken on my computer given that I can't install or update any games I have there. I'll likely get to uninstalling and reinstalling Steam, however. itch.io doesn't have a lot of games available on Mac. Politoria isn't compatible with macOS Mojave, which is the OS I'm still using as I'm hesitant to upgrade, so it ain't like I can play it on my computer either. Basically, right, if I were to play any downloadable games, then I'd have to constantly switch between my Windows laptop and my Mac computer, which would be quite a hassle to do as I use the same headphones and mouse for both of the devices, and also use my Mac to type my scripts and edit my videos. I guess what I'll do is just finish off with this video and start using my Windows laptop to start playing Politoria for the first time. I said the least extreme thing to do is to boycott Roblox. Now, if you really feel the need to actually do something, then you need to physically protest near the Roblox HQ. Cookie Run Kingdom had players rent trucks to physically protest some Ancient Plus rarity, right? So if CRK players can do that, then surely Robloxians can physically protest Roblox too. Like, if you live in San Mateo, then you can physically protest Roblox, right? The extreme thing I suggest you to do is to organize a physical protest with other Robloxians. If you have a massive following and live in San Mateo, then what I suggest you to do is to visit the Roblox headquarters and start protesting the change. They lock our chats behind ID paywall. They're trying to take away the items we use to express ourselves, and now they're trying to add generative AI to Roblox Studios. 3 bad updates already. Like, if this ain't a sign that we must do something, then I don't know what is. But yeah, the takeaway here is that this update has tons of negatives without any positives whatsoever, and also hints that there will be even worse updates in the future. What I suggest you guys to do now is to stop boycotting Roblox and play other games. And that if you live in San Mateo and have a big following, then organize a physical Roblox protest. That's all I can say now. Farewell, adios, and sayonara.